Hi there, I'm Lance, and today I'll be doing Arwen Lynch's Tarot Tag 15. So the first question is, what is your current favorite deck? My current favorite deck would be the Numinous Tarot, which was self-published by Noelle this year. Here's the deck. It has really beautiful gold borders and very vivid colors, as well as it being a more, I think, modern and relevant take on the tarot. So there's a renaming of the suits and a renaming of the court cards, and a couple extra cards as well. So check it out. Number 2, what card do you think stands for who you are now? So I answered this in another video as well. The card that stands for me now, I feel like, is the Wheel of Fortune. Not because things are changing so much, but because things feel like they're kind of rolling along. I'm having both, good and not so good opportunities coming my way that I have a choice with. So it feels like I'm going along a path, but I don't quite see where that path is at the moment. And so that brings into number 3, what card do you think stands for who you want to be? And that would be the Magician. So I'm working a lot on figuring out what my own desire is and my own future vision that I want to work towards, and that I want to use all these skills that I'm building and all these opportunities that are coming my way. And recently in a class I was taking on issues in Buddhist ministry, we were talking about various traumas in our life and how we can connect them to Dharma teachings, or spiritual teachings, particularly within Buddhism. And even the negative experiences have formed us to who we are now, and also then inform the positive work that we do in the world. So it's not so much that we're grateful for bad things, but we are grateful for the good that has come out of it, or the types of support and caring that we've experienced from those around us. So both, more happy and more suffering types of experiences show us a more interrelated view of the world. So for me right now, I'm looking into a lot of that in my own past and seeing how it informs my particular stance in the world now, and what that could mean for me in my own spiritual work and my own career. Number 4, draw a card to answer the question, what does the universe want me to know right now? So I have number 2, the Diviner. So I teach a tarot and trance workshop tomorrow, so I'm getting excited about that. It's quite a full class. And I think this card is telling me to not overthink the process, but feel what's going on in the classroom. Maybe even go in without a fixed agenda. I do have an outline, but allow some flexibility in that process, and just kind of pick up and receive, what the people in the class are bringing with them that particular day. I've gone through a lot of visualizations and imaginings of how this class will be, but when it comes down to it, every moment and every class and every experience is unique to that time and place. So I think the High Priestess is asking me to be aware and open and receptive to that. Number 5, do you have any cards that you must love in order to work with the deck? No, I don't. I don't have any cards that I have to love for me to use a deck. If I really hate a card though, and I really just can't get past my visceral reaction to it for some reason, that could be a bit of an obstacle. Most decks, kind of have a mixed bag of cards that I like and cards that I don't like so much in terms of artwork. But it's just a preference, so I don't think the deck itself has any issue. And sometimes for a reading for other people, a deck that I might not really connect with, they really find the imagery very powerful and impactful. So I'll use that deck, I mentioned before, I kind of work on my own associations and experience, so the card is just a medium for that. So for that reason, I like unillustrated minors, but I'm fine working with illustrated ones, even with illustrations I don't particularly like or that I really like. Number 6, why tarot and not some other divination system? I think I'm a very visual person, and tarot is a very visual art form. So that's one answer. And another answer, I'd say I really like this idea that symbols and images and the tarot cards can be these gateways to our mind. And our mind is unimaginable in terms of how far it can go, what it can imagine, what it can feel. So for me, each card is like unlocking this infinite world of associations. So I really like that kind of, what I find beautiful about the tarot. I also, like astrology and numerology and dice and coin divination and trance type of divination. I like all these things for different reasons, but tarot is always my go-to. I think it stimulates my mind in a different way that I rather enjoy. So, number 7, what is the first book you can remember reading about tarot besides the Little White Book? So the first book, and I'll have it, it's not the actual book, but a copy that I got later on, The Pictorial Key of the Tarot. It's a really exciting adventure of a book. Not really, but it was the first book that I read, and so a lot of my reading style is based off of the Rider-Waite-Smith kind of approach from the beginning. The first decks that I had were clones, but nowadays I read with Fiorentine Minchiati and unillustrated minors. So I've been moving away in the last kind of 2 years from the Rider-Waite-Smith types of meanings, and more into a freeform or layered, I like to say, with astrology or numerology type of reading style. Name a tarot person, this is number 8, name a tarot person that you would like to sit down and chat about tarot. Pamela Coleman Smith. She seemed like an interesting kind of character, and also because I think she was so influential in the modern tarot world with her illustrations. I'd really like to know, what was going on in her mind and how she reacted and responded to each of those cards and each of those images. So yeah, if I could, I would. Number 9, tell me about one YouTube channel that you watch and why. So I'm just kind of new and recent to even watching YouTube videos on tarot. I've skimmed through some of them in the past. They've mostly been those kinds of reading for the week types of videos, just to kind of see what people are up to, what kind of styles they're liking, what's vibing for them as far as being tarot readers and the kinds of messages they like to give. But I kind of just click through, never really watch a full one. I have been, recently I started watching through Instagram. The Knave of Swords is an Instagram account, and he has a YouTube account, I believe it's called something faithful, almost faithful. And so he does a lot of spreads and discussion around the European cartomancy tradition. So I've been finding those videos, been watching them all the way, not skipping through, finding them very helpful and insightful and kind of fun. I like reading with majors only, and recently he was saying that's quite the trend in the, I believe he said, French style. So I teach people to begin reading with just the majors. I often do readings with just the majors, so I'm very curious and excited to see other videos like that. And I'll have a link to his channel below. Number 10, how many tarot decks do you have? So probably 18 to 20-ish. I haven't counted, but I have a suitcase that's full of them. Again, I don't really use all of them very often, except for taking photos or social media types of things, or when I teach classes or workshops, when people come over and they just want to look through cards and kind of read for themselves, or kind of have a mini friend lesson. It's great for them to be able to pick and interact and see the different kinds of tarot decks. So I like that idea of there's many ways you could approach this, and there's not one way, but there are ways, not the way. So yeah, Do I have a lot? Not really. I don't consider myself a deck collector. I will definitely say that. If I find a deck that is particularly interesting to me, I'll pick it up. But otherwise. 11. Do you mix oracle cards and tarot decks when you read? Sometimes, not always. Sometimes I mix coins and tarot. Sometimes I mix pendulum and tarot. But 90% of the time it is tarot. When I was doing street readings, I would do a 3-card major, sometimes a 4 or 5, and then I would have people pick from an oracle deck. I used the Earthbound Oracle because it didn't have any kind of fixed meanings to it. It was just like a natural image and a keyword. And then I would have the person take a photo, and I would give them an exercise. So they had to reflect on that card and word and do kind of free-form association meditation of sorts when they had time. So that could be in the shower, that could be journaling, it could be when they wake up and just lay in bed. But if they could, for the next 5 days, think of this image and the word and then see where their mind leads them. See what other images, words, feelings, experiences, where that kind of journey would take them, and then for them to kind of summarize that into one feeling. And that feeling would be part of their own answer to the tarot reading that they had just received from me. So it would add this personalized layer. And I also felt that it was an exercise, a kind of creative, intuitive exercise for them. Some people did it, some people didn't. It's really up to their client, but it definitely was something I would suggest for street readings, because a lot of people that got street readings were totally new to tarot and divination and never had one before. So I felt like it was a really great way to give them some sort of way to engage and exercise their own capacity and ability for divination. And then hopefully they stay interested and learn and read for themselves more. Number 12, have you ever created your own tarot card or deck? No, I haven't. I don't know if I'm really interested. I made a Minchiati Fiorentine by using and editing images and creating my own back a couple of years ago. But now I see that it's in print again. So I want to pick up the printed copy, not my own copy. But that's not something that I sell or that I would ever say that I created. It's just a deck that I use for personal use. Yeah. Number 13, do you read for yourself? Yes, if it's not something that I'm very emotional about or very invested in the outcome. I prefer to go to another reader. I feel like if I'm reading for myself and I'm having strong feelings around it, then I'll probably have too much of a bias to look at clearly. For me, as a reading style, I think it's important to combine equally the improvisational, intuitive, emotional, experiential type of reading style with my own logic and critical analysis of what I'm saying and what the message is. And I feel like that's difficult to do when I'm having a strong feeling about something. So I'd rather have, and often when I'm reading for myself in those kinds of cases, I'm looking for a different perspective and a different course of action. So if I'm so invested in it, I'll just give myself what I want to hear. And I'd rather have someone else give me a fresh perspective so that I could possibly change that situation or gain some new insight rather than just repeating my own. And if it's something that I don't feel too strongly about, I can have a little bit more of a critical look at it. So I can give myself the message and then analyze it and be like, okay, so here is the message, and does this make sense in my life? What would be the consequences? Potentially, I can think it through a little bit more after doing the more intuitive side of it. Number 14, what are your favorite questions to be asked when reading for someone else? Favorite questions. I like when people are looking for clarity on their own path and kind of assessing what their own strengths and maybe learning edges are. currently. So kind of like spiritual or personal self-development types of questions. People want to understand new ways of relating to themselves, to other people in their life, or to the world, universe at large. So kind of like existential crisis types of things are interesting to me as well. Strangely, I get questions about career and career path and career choices and workplace. I've had quite a few people ask me those types of questions. I don't know why. I don't really put that out there that that's what I do, but that's what I get. So what is it? Number 15, what's the craziest thing that has happened to you during a reading? So craziest thing, that would be when I was doing street readings, and I've had a couple of them, but one of the more shocking ones was I was reading for two women at my table under a little tree in North Carolina. And we were very into the reading. I think maybe we were like 10 minutes in, it was evening time. All three of us were like kind of leaning in over the table, and a group of women in probably their like 50s, early 60s come by, and they probably were drinking, but one of them, she grabbed my hand while I was holding cards and doing a reading, and then yelled at me, let me read your palm, let me read your palm, and then started slapping my hand in a kind of abrupt way, and then just like kind of laughed at herself and walked away. So that was a bit, what was the word? Crazy? Craziest? Wildest? Unexpected? It wasn't so much a bother for me, but I did feel kind of bad for the two people getting the reading because they were really shooken up. And I've had a couple other experiences like that where someone will come up and just like kind of be really abrupt and rude. I'm not sure why people feel entitled to do that to a street reader or even entertainers, as I knew other people that were busking that sometimes would have people that would just be really inappropriate. That was a strange one. I've had other readings that were just very intense, and again, that's like on the street. I think I have the strangest things happen. Maybe because there's a lot of possibility for random events and change and people and movement going on versus like in a contained space. But I had another reading with someone whose partner for many decades had passed away unexpectedly and not in a really great way, just the week prior. And so, you know, they had a reading and they wanted a message from this person as well as what they could do to kind of release some of the grief and maybe what was holding them back from releasing the grief. So that was a really intense reading on the street that happened within like a 15-minute window. And you know, everyone's in tears and it's like hugs afterwards, and it was very cathartic, but you know, it really just validated for me the power of being able to do street readings, and the readings that we think that are small and inconsequential, and even if we think we're doing readings for fun, we might get someone, some word we say or a card we pull really just triggers in that person a powerful experience. So there is this idea of like, oh, you know, we're just reading, it's just cards, it's just for fun. But at the same time, it's not, you know. Those just for fun things can open up into really profound things for people. And so I think I always try to be aware of that I might be going in with a really lighthearted attitude, but I don't know what will happen. And I might be going in with a really serious attitude, and that might also just turn into a light, fun thing too. Every reading will be different, and so for me it's hard to say, like, you know, street readings are not as professional or not as therapeutic, or the environment is wrong, or it's not sacred. And I start thinking of, you know, the deities and spirits and mythologies and stories of all of the kinds of trickster trickster energies that really thrive in the marketplace and the crossroads. And often these are the oldest and most ancient type of energies that carry a lot of wisdom with them. So I say a lot of power to the street and the street reading. And you will also get a bunch of wacky things that will happen because lots of things are happening around you. So I encourage you to try street readings, and I totally went on a tangent with that, but that's okay because I felt like talking about it, and hopefully you found it interesting. And that's, what else? I think that was the last question. That was number 15. And thank you, Arwen Lynch, for Tarot Tag 15. Have a great day. Bye.